Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain.
I'm Lynn.
And today we're going to be counting down our top 10 favorite games that replace classic games. So now this was a list we had done like way back in the beginning of the channel, but that list is crazy outdated and crazy old and used substandard equipment before we had good microphones and such. So I was talking to Lynn about doing a list and she wanted to redo this one. So here we are. And you know what? My list is... I didn't look at the video.
I didn't either.
So I don't know for certain, but this list has got to be mostly different because many of these games didn't exist at that time. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be significantly different. Does yours feel that way too?
Maybe.
You're not really sure?
Bold of you to assume I remember what happened yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Much less like years ago.
Fair enough. But so I did some self-imposed restrictions on my list. One thing I did was I decided I wasn't going to put a game on this list if I already had a game on this list that replaced the same classic game or games. So, like, for instance...
So, it's all unique classic games? Because
that was self-imposed. I just did that to myself.
I did the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, great minds think alike.
What I did was I listed a bunch of classic games, and then I wandered around and chose a game that I thought replaced it the best.
Oh, see, I went through my favorite games, and as I was going through my favorite games, kind of mostly off Board Game Geek, I was just like, oh, that game replaces this classic game, or that classic game. Anyway, and then I got it all put together.
I do like all the games, because there are some games that, can replace classic games, but I was like, oh, I don't like that game. So it was like,
well, they should be ones you like.
So there are games that I like.
Okay. Do you want to go first or second on this list?
I'll go first.
Okay. All right. So without any further ado.
I ordered my list how well they replace the classic games.
So it's not ordered by how much you like them.
Yes.
It's how good of a replacement.
It's how good of a replacement.
Oh, mine is by how much I like them. So that might be interesting. It'll be a little different.
Because my number 10 is there's a classic game that I was looking around and I was like, we really don't have anything that like is 100% a replacement.
Okay.
So that's why it's number 10.
So that one's a little iffy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so without any further ado, we're going to get to our number 10s. Number 10.
Okay. So my number 10 is going to be replacing the classic game Memory. And I chose Woodlands.
Okay. Interesting.
It's not like... It's not perfect.
I was going to say.
But there's I feel like it's in the same kind of vein as Memory.
It feels... Okay, it's not the same sort of game. It's not a memory game. In fact, actually, we have a better memory game for replacing Memory that I think you missed. It's that one where you're mining the alien planet and you have to look over the tiles and remember I can't remember the name of it. I'll probably put the name on the screen.
Planetoid or something?
Oh yeah, that's it, Planetoid. I would have thought that would have been a better replacement for Memory.
That game didn't wow me, so
I
don't remember how to.
But I see what you mean about how like the feel is similar.
It feels similar.
So why don't you talk about Woodlands a bit?
Well, with Woodlands, you have this transparency with like features on it. And then you have tiles that make up like a hedge maze. Yeah. And you have to arrange the tiles in a way that when you put the transparency over it, like a little person on the transparency can get from point A to point B with like avoiding things or collecting other things.
So the mechanics are actually nothing like Memory, but it's got a similar feel. It's a family weight game. It's got that kind of kiddie-ish sort of theme, like they do Little Red Riding Hood, Sheriff Robin Hood,
King Arthur,
and Dracula, but Dracula's done kind of in a cartoony way. So yeah, I see what you mean, and it's funny because like even though the mechanics are totally different, and I feel like I should disagree with you on this one, I actually kind of don't, because I see what you're going for
This is the only one where it's just like, if you squint and look out of the side of your eye.
It's kind of like Memory.
The rest are a lot better.
So, all right. We'll see if anybody complains in the comments on that one, or any of them for that matter. But my number 10 choice for a replacement to a classic game is a replacement to the classic games of Spades and Hearts. And this is Fox in the Forest. Now, Fox in the Forest is a fantastic little two-player trick-taking game, which both Spades and Hearts are trick-taking games in the same family of games. And the thing is, like, I love those games. I was a big fan of them. Back in the day, we used to be in a regular Spades group that when we were living on Long Island, we'd meet up at diners and play Spades all night and just drink cups and cups of coffee and leave a big tip for the waiter and call it a night and go home at like 4 in the morning. Like, this was a thing we did back when we were in college. So when we got much more into modern games, as they were becoming a bigger thing after the new millennium, I was always kind of on the lookout for a game that would replace that for me, at least one that I could play with Lynn, and this was the perfect game for that, because Fox in the Forest is a two-player trick-taking game with modern mechanics and aesthetics. It's got this kind of fairy tale sort of feel to it, but also some of the cards have special abilities that can do all sorts of interesting different things to keep the game fresh. And this is a game that Lynn and I have brought to play at like the coffee house a bunch, and it's really cool for that. And it is, for me, because things like, Hearts and Spades, where you have very specific player counts, and I would probably never get the right number of people to actually together to play those again. This playing it 2 players is much better for me because I can just play it with Lynn. And that's why Fox in the Forest is my number 10, and it is a great replacement for either Spades or Hearts. Number 9.
Okay, my number 9 is a replacement for checkers. And that game would be Return to Camelot.
Oh, it's a fantastic game.
It's a little bit more advanced than checkers, but yes. I feel like it replace it. It
also kind of has that. It jumps like checkers, but it also has that kind of feel where it's also kind of a replacement to Stratego because you have the hidden pieces. And you don't know what they are. So, great game. I almost put this on my list, and I kept it off the list for a really arbitrary reason, which is that it's not in print right now and people can't find it.
Well,
and the thing is, I love this game. I love this game. This was one that was designed by Marcello Bertocci, friend of the channel, has appeared on videos here. I have told Marcello that I think this is his best design, and he needs to get it back in print because it's so good. It's so enjoyable. Anything else you want to say about the wonderful replacement of both checkers and Stratego?
Well, I have a different one for Stratego, but...
Oh, okay. So you weren't even going to mention that it's kind of a replacement. Well, I totally agree with you. This is a great game. And like I said, it would have made my list if it was in print right now. But the thing was, like, when I was making this list, I was thinking to myself, I'm kind of recommending to people what are good games to replace classics for them. So that's why I didn't put it on the list. My number 9, though, coincidentally, is a good replacement to Stratego. Any guesses?
The something in Kyoto?
Shadows in Kyoto, yeah. I love that game. We got to get that to the table again. It hasn't actually hit the table in a while for us, but the thing about Shadows in Kyoto, it distills down the bluffing pieces mechanic of Stratego to its pure essence, and then adds in extra cool things. Like it adds in asymmetrical player powers, which is a really cool thing, and you have different ones to choose from. It also adds in, which is really awesome with Shadows in Kyoto, it adds in the fact that it's not just that there's certain pieces of yours that your opponent wants to capture, there's certain pieces that they don't want to capture. Because you can either win by capturing the information that the enemy's spies are trying to move through the city in Kyoto, or you can lose if your opponent forces you to capture the misinformation, which is amazing. I love this game, and for me, this completely replaces Stratego for me. There are some other games that I love a lot that also are good Stratego replacements, but of them, I think this is my favorite. I'm a big fan of Shadows in Kyoto. So that's why it is my number 9. Anything you want to say on Shadows in Kyoto?
No.
Being tight-lipped. Number 8.
Okay, my number 8 is a replacement to Battleship, and it is Death Note. There's a subtitle, but I didn't write it down.
Confrontation.
Yes.
Great game.
Because you're trying to figure out, you have a little grid, and you're trying to figure out where the other person is on the grid, at least if you're the detective.
Yes. Well, one person is it plays the storyline from Death Note. So one person is Kira, who is got the Death Note, and they are using it to kill criminals, and the other person is playing L, who is the detective trying to find Kira. And Kira, every time they kill criminals, they have to give out hints about what quadrant they might be in, or what they're not in, and Elle has to slowly figure out where they are. Yeah. Great game.
So you're not both trying to figure out where the other person is, but it's similar enough, I think.
No, this is very similar. This is not a stretch at all. Okay, so here's the thing. While in Battleship, you could sort of say that both people are doing both things that you would be doing in Death Note Confrontation. Death Note Confrontation feels like it achieves both of those things, even though they're done by different players. One person hiding the stuff and the other person trying to find the stuff. Much better and in a much more involved way. Whereas with Battleship, it feels much more luck-based because you actually don't have to give out hints. Probably.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so this is a way, way better game and definitely a fantastic replacement to Battleship. So as you can tell, I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
Okay.
Anything else you want to say on Death Note Confrontation?
No, it's fun.
It is super fun. So that was your number 8, right? Mm-hmm. So my number 8 is a replacement to me for things like Texas Hold'em or other sort of poker games where you have some public information and some hidden information. And what I mean by that is, if you recall, if you've played Texas Hold'em, you know that there is a group of cards that are face up in the middle of the table and everybody shares those, but then everybody has a couple of cards face down, and only they have those and know what those are. Then everybody is doing wagers based on what they think their opponent's hands are. So now with this game that is a replacement to that is Cursed Court. So Cursed Court is a game where cards are some cards are dealt face up and everybody has access to them. And then some cards are dealt face down between you and the player to your left and you and the player to your right. And everybody can look at the card to their left and the card to their right, but they can't look at the other cards. And then they're wagering on how many of the cards are out there. It's a really cool wagering game. The wagering is done less like actual betting and more just like you have a stack of resource coins and you have to figure out how many to put in. And if you ever feel really strongly about trying to knock someone off a spot and they haven't put that many of their coins on it, you can always double their wager to force them off that spot to wager that particular group of cards will be coming out. And yeah, it is super fun. I really like it. Anyone who likes the bluffing and trying to read their opponents in a game like Texas Hold'em, but is not a huge fan of actually gambling, would really enjoy Cursed Court. And that's why I would totally recommend it to you. And that's why Cursed Court is my number 8.
Okay.
Not going to say anything on Cursed Court?
I don't like it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Number 7.
My number 7 replaces Monopoly.
Oh.
And it is Lords of Vegas.
Great game. No argument from me. Go on.
While you are not like going around a board, you are building up properties and buying hotels and upgrading them and hostile takeovering other people's hotels.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a little bit of like you can like, if you're short of money, you can like gamble at casinos, but that's not like a major part of the game really.
It very much feels like, with the property speculation, the economics, it very much feels like a replacement to Monopoly.
It's got the paper money.
This is up there as, in my opinion, probably one of the best replacements to Monopoly. Like, if you liked what Monopoly should be now, but they never properly moved the design forward. They just kept producing the same game that was originally designed before World War II.
They just keep slapping different IPs on it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, definitely, Lords of Vegas is fantastic. So my number 7 is our first crossover. Care to hazard a guess?
Is it Lords of Vegas?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
No, not gonna hazard another guess. It's a crossover, so it's on your list.
How would have I said already?
Anything up to number 7? Give you one more guess since you already guessed one.
Is it Death Note?
It is Death Note Confrontation. So I already talked just recently about why it's such a great replacement to Battleship. Nobody should ever play Battleship anymore. It's lousy. Death Note Confrontation, if you can find a copy of it, is phenomenal. I love this game, and I'm very happy it is a part of our collection. And it is one that, again, Lynn and I can play in a small footprint, just her and I. It's a 2-player game. It's a really great heads-up game. Everything else that's great about it, I've already really talked about because I talked about it when you picked it. So I think we'll just move on. Number 6.
My number 6 is a replacement to solitaire games.
Oh, interesting. So like the solitaire card game or the solitaire peg jumping game?
Any solitaire game.
Okay.
Pretty much. Probably more cards because it has cards. Well, anyway. So it is the Guild of Merchant Explorers. Because you are flipping over cards and then putting stuff on your little board, and I mean, there's no reason for another person to be there, but
there is a solitaire variant too.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay, so there's a solitaire variant, and you can play it solitaire, and then if you play multiplayer,
there's no interaction. The cards do the same thing for both people. Only thing is you're just trying to get more points. That's the only thing.
Fantastic game and good pick. I didn't think of this. This didn't occur to me as like a replacement to solitaire, or it might have made my list. Good pick. Really interesting. Guild of Merchant Explorers, which is, we just reviewed this not long ago. We got a review copy from AEG, and we got the review copy because we were at Gen Con and we tried the game and were wowed by it. And I just went to them and I was like, hey, are you looking for people to cover this? Because I can tell you right now, our review would be positive. We really enjoyed this game. And so they gave me a review copy. I guess that sold them on us reviewing it. Great pick for your number 6. Mm-hmm. My number 6 is a replacement to the classic game of Clue. And this is one that, without having watched the old video, I'm pretty sure was on my list in the old video. This is one of the ones where it's older. It's a modern game, but it is an older modern game. It's been around for a number of years. And I'm pretty sure it was on the list, and it is Mysterium. Mysterium is one of the games in our collection that has had some of the best staying power with us. We play it with so many different groups of people, and it very much has a similar feel to Clue by getting rid of all the stuff that didn't make sense in Clue. Like, there's no roll and move mechanic, because why would you want that? But you're trying to figure out a person, a location, and an item involved with the ghost murder. And one player plays the ghost and tries to give you clues to help you figure it out, which actually makes it a far more interesting game than the classic game of Clue was. And I still love Mysterium. That's why it's my number 6 on this list. Did you want to say anything about Mysterium?
No, I agree with everything you said.
Oh, okay then. Number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is a replacement to like set collecting card games, like Rummy type games.
Like Rummy 500 where you're laying them out?
Well,
okay.
And that game that replaces it is Cat Lady.
Okay.
So you are collecting cats and then putting them in front of you, and also collecting toys and outfits. And
food.
And food. And catnip, and it's very much reminds me of like those games where you're just like trying to collect like all the 5s and be like, I have the 5s,
No, definitely, it's a set collecting game for sure. And then there's also which is added in, and one of the reasons why it's a good modern replacement is they also have that cool drafting mechanic where you lay out a grid of cards and you be like, I want to draft all the cards in this row or all the cards in this column, and whichever one you pick, there's a little token that you put by it, and the next player is not allowed to pick the new cards that just came up from that row or column. Well, they
could pick one of them.
They could pick one of them by doing, like, if you block a row, they could still pick a column, which would take one of them, but they can't take all 3 of them, the very next person. Really, really great game. Cat Lady has had a lot of staying power with us, actually, so, yeah. Anything else you want to say on Cat Lady?
No.
Nope. Okay, so that was your number 5. My number 5 is a replacement to the classic game of, well, actually, kind of a little bit of 2 classic games. It's a replacement to the classic games of Othello and Nine Men's Morris. And now those games have nothing in common, so I know you're probably thinking to yourself, if you're not too familiar with this particular game, how does it replace a game like Othello, where you're just, trying to flip over pieces and have the most of them flipped over, and Nine Men's Morris, where you're just trying to kind of get 3 in a row? And that's because it kind of does both, and that is Yinch. So the thing with Yinch is you're moving pieces around, flipping over pieces, and you're trying to get pieces on your color 5 in a row. So it kind of does both. It's got the flipping pieces, but it's also got the 5 in a row kind of thing. You got to do it 3 times to beat your opponent. Yinch is a fantastic abstract strategy game. It is part of the Gift collection, the Gift Project, and of all of the Gift Project games, it is hands down my favorite of all of the games in the Gift Project. But they are all great, and if you are a fan of abstract strategy games, I recommend the Gift Project games to you. And above all of them, definitely recommend Yinch. Any thoughts on Yinch?
No, I don't think that was one I really liked.
No, that wasn't one of your favorites.
Yeah.
No, I know what your favorite is, and I'm wondering if it's going to be on here. But then again,
I don't.
You already had a replacement to Checkers, so probably not. Because your favorite was Zerts. Yeah, and Zerts would be a replacement more to Checkers than anything else. Number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is a replacement to Risk.
Okay.
I originally had a different game and then I switched it out.
Fair enough.
But I chose Mytholix.
Oh,
it doesn't,
weird. It doesn't feel like Risk.
Well, it doesn't have like the reinforcements, but it is like area control.
Kinda, but I wouldn't have thought of this as it's. This one feels like the biggest stretch to me on your list so far. It really does, because like you're not using soldiers. You have the one god, and he moves around, and
he's the only soldier you need. He's
a deity.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about Mytholix a little bit?
So you're a Greek god, and you have a special power.
Yeah, they have asymmetrical player powers.
And you have to collect, I forget what they're called, but you have to collect certain things, and you go around.
You have to take control of locations and stuff.
You drop your little icons on the locations, and then you can mine stuff from them. And...
Yeah, it gets you resources to be able to upgrade your powers, and eventually, because you want to basically become the most powerful of the deities and win the game.
Yeah.
Essentially, because as you go, you can attack and take over more and more powerful locations.
I think it's similar enough.
Okay,
it's just that there's no reinforcements.
Because you're not controlling armies. You're just controlling like a deity. I got to tell you, I think this is actually probably your biggest stretch on the list so far. But I'm not gonna spend too much time like giving you crap for it though. I'm just gonna kind of move on to mine.
Okay.
Because Lord knows I have made some big stretches on my list before, so it happens. But that was the number 4, yes? Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Was it?
I believe that was your number 4, was Mytholix. Yes. And Mytholix you were using as your replacement to Risk. So my number 4 is a replacement to race games, things specifically kind of like the Game of Life or careers, or to a lesser extent even old school little kitty games like Candyland, but games where you go on a path and you want to be the first one to get through, maybe pick things up as you go along. These kind of race games have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years and were very popular hundreds of years ago. A lot of the royalty throughout Europe were big into some of these race games that are like the ancestors of these classic but more modern ones like the Game of Life. But generally speaking, you don't see too many modern ones, and it's because a lot of people really associate these games with roll and move, which they don't have to be, and that's the thing. And roll and move is terrible, and people don't like it, but there are some designers who have said, well, let's find a new way to move around, and this is a game that does that. This is Extraordinary Adventures Pirates. So Extraordinary Adventures Pirates is a game where you take control of some pirate ships, all moving through different paths through the Caribbean as you try to loot the most treasure and pick up crewmates, which makes your ships operate better. And then you want to kind of have the most points and then also be the first person to get to the destination, which triggers the end of the game. And as long as you have the most points when you got to the destination at the end of all the racetracks, which that destination gives you like some last chance to get some more points over everybody else, you win the game of Extraordinary Adventures Pirates. And it's a super freaking fun game. You did away the designer, which was Glenn Drover, did away with the roll and move crap that was in a lot of the old sort of race games. came up with a much better way to control the movement and made a really fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on Extraordinary Adventures of Pirates? I know you're a fan of this one.
Yeah, I like it. I like the games that, because it uses cards with numbers on them to move.
Yeah.
I like that more than the rolling the dice.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though it's just a hand of cards, so it is just as like arbitrary.
No, but it's not, because you can pick one.
Yeah, but if you let me finish, I was saying you have a choice out of a hand of cards. And yeah, your hand of cards might be a hand of like the same number, but still it's a choice.
Well, you get to do some hand management.
Yeah.
Rather than just be like roll the dice and whatever you get, that's what you have to do. You get some hand management in there, and that makes it feel more strategic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
a little bit, yeah.
Number 3.
Okay, my number 3 has already been mentioned.
Oh, it's a crossover. Wait. You don't want me to get.
I didn't even say what it replaces.
I know, but don't say what it replaces.
Okay.
I'm going to try to guess.
Okay.
So I already mentioned it.
Yes.
Okay. Let me think. I'm going to guess Mysterium.
No.
It wasn't Mysterium. Is it Extraordinary Adventures Pirates?
No.
Okay.
It replaces Stratego. So it is Shadows in Kyoto.
Wow. Okay, I knew you liked this game. I didn't know it was going to be this high on your list. So awesome.
It's high. I didn't do it from how I liked it. Remember?
Oh, it's because it's an incredibly good replacement to
yeah.
Stratego. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I totally get that. Well, wow, fantastic pick. I love Shadows in Kyoto too. Anything else you wanted to say in Shadows in Kyoto that we didn't cover earlier?
We already said everything about it.
Oh, okay. So that was your number 3. My number 3 is a replacement for me to Dominoes. This is a tile laying game. It's played at strictly 2 players, but does give a similar feel, or at least a similar thrill that I got from Dominoes as a kid. And this is Niju. Now, Niju is a tile laying game where each tile you lay down has boxes on them, which tells you where you need to have other tiles of your own color in relation to this tile to win the game. So each tile has its own win condition, and your opponent can see that and try to block you by putting tiles down. And you, of course, can see that and try to block your opponent, and also try to place tiles in the locations where they would help one of your tiles win. It is a incredibly brain-burning game. As you slowly build up this huge grid of tiles on the table and get often you wind up winning by actually laying out the requirements to win and then dropping the tile in the right spot and just being like, ha, instant win, which happens a lot in the game, which is really fun and very satisfying. And if your opponent realizes what you're doing, might try to stop you by blocking you, but if you can do it without them noticing, that's when it becomes really amazing. And you can win the game of Niju that way. And I like Niju a lot. Very good brain-burning tile-laying game.
I didn't really like it.
Well, you had trouble visualizing it all. Yeah, but I'm a huge fan of Niju. I like it a lot. I play it with Alex. Number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is also a crossover.
Oh, okay. Is this one Mysterium?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I knew you had to have Mysterium on here. I was going to cry foul if you didn't put Mysterium on your list.
Replaces Clue, and it is Mysterium.
Okay.
And we already talked about it.
All right, so nothing else to say on Mysterium then?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so my number 2, and this is an interesting one. So this is my replacement for Risk. But I want to draw special attention to it because of 2 reasons. One, this is one of the newest games on my list, but also the smallest released game on my list. This is a self-published game you can get over on the Game Crafter. That's how small it is. But it's got a similar kind of area control that Risk does, but it also has a ton more mechanics, which makes it far more interesting, and also is likely not to last anywhere near as long as Risk, because there's a definite defined end to the game. And that is Launch, Land, Expand, Ursa Prime. This is an indie game that I was sent to review, and I fell in love with really right after getting into it. I'd actually first tried it before it was released at the First Exposure Playtest Hall. The designer ran us through a game of it. Lynn and I were immediately wowed, and we told him, if you ever, when you do get it published, if you're looking for someone to review it, let us know. I gave him my card. He got back to me later. I already knew we were going to like it because we thoroughly enjoyed it, and we actually liked it even more when we got the final version because he had done some upgrades to the rules and such, and the game is great. It's absolutely amazing. And if you're a fan of area control games, but maybe want something more to them, because like the area control feels like Risk, doesn't it? When you're down on the planet. But then the whole thing about orbiting the planet and slowly going down and trying to avoid each other, because there's that, one faction, because they have asymmetrical player powers, and one faction can attack other ships in orbit as they're trying to deliver their troops to the surface. And all the different factions have different things going on, and plus there's some economics, and there's all sorts of stuff going on in this game. It's actually, I could almost do it as like a successor to Monopoly with all the economics that's involved. But all of that together makes this game super awesome, and is why I would definitely recommend you go over to the Game Crafter, search Lunchland, expand Ursa Prime, and if you're a fan of anything I talked about, help the designer out and buy a copy of his game, because it's freaking great. But yeah, that's my number 2. Anything you want to say on Lunchland, expand Ursa Prime?
No, just that I enjoy it also.
I was gonna say, because I know you're a big fan of this.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Risk. I generally am very hit or miss with area control games.
Right.
But because there's other things going on, it's not just area control.
So okay, that's. I was gonna say, because I know you are a big fan of this one. You have gone out of your way to request playing it on multiple occasions, so I know you are a big fan of this one. I'm probably didn't make your list because you weren't thinking too much on the lines of Risk.
Yeah. And I already had a bad replacement to Risk.
And now it is time for number 1.
Okay, my number 1 is a replacement to chess, and it is The Duke.
Oh, great game. Great game.
I like that it has the moves on it.
on the pieces?
Chess, yes.
Yeah. No, that's very helpful.
And it does keep it, like, it is a little more interesting because it adds a bit of randomness, because you have to pull you either move a piece on the board or you can pull a piece from the bag. So that puts a little spice in it, I think.
Oh, totally agree. Great game, a lot of staying power. We actually still have the original version of the Duke, the first edition, along with, like, I think we got just about all the expansions when they came out. Because we have the Robin Hood expansion. We got really into the Duke for a while. We had the Robin Hood. There's a King Arthur one.
There's a Conan.
There's a Conan one. It's actually a Robert E. Howard one. It's also got other Robert E. Howard characters from other time periods. I think Kull the Conqueror's in there, and also I forget what the guy's name was, but the Puritan warrior dude.
I don't know.
I forgot his name. But yeah, in addition to Conan, there's a bunch of other characters in there. But yeah, no. And then we also got the sequel game, was Jarl.
Yeah.
Which we still have in the collection, which actually you can play if you have both the Duke and Jarl. You can play, one side can be the Duke and the other side can be Jarl, and you can basically play out like an abstract strategy game of the Vikings attacking the British Isles, which is really cool. I like that they did that, because the pieces in Jarl and the pieces in Duke actually have significantly different movements, which is really good. No, this is a fantastic, almost family of games at this point with all the stuff they've done with it. So it didn't make my list. But not because I didn't like it, just because I had so many games, and I had another game to replace chess and checkers, and it's my number 1 also, which is kind of weird. So yeah, this is a replacement to chess and checkers for me. This is a game, I don't even think you've tried this one yet.
Okay.
But Alex and I have been playing the absolute crap out of this game, and I know this would have been on his list if it had done this list with us. It is That Time You Killed Me. This is a mind-blowingly amazing game that slowly reveals itself to you over time, where you have 3 boards, and on each board you start with one of your pieces, and the piece moves very basically can move one space in any direction. But as you go, there are interesting things you can do that affect the other boards. So the thing is, the boards are meant to represent past, present, and future, and you can time travel between the boards. And the idea is you are time travelers one of you invented time travel, the other person is trying to take the claim for it, so you're trying to murder each other in the time stream, which is awesome. So you can duplicate yourself in the time stream by traveling backwards in time. And then to start with, there are 3 different modules, and each module plays totally differently. So this is like one game that feels, again, like a family of games, because there's a module that involves planting seeds, and then in the next time period, the seed becomes a shrub, and in the next time period, the seed becomes a tree. And you could push the tree down to crush somebody, or you could push someone into the shrub to crush them, to kill them. And then there's another one where you carve statues, and if you carve a statue in one time period, every future time period gets the statue. And then if you move the statue in one time period, every future time period, the statue moves in the same direction, the same number of spaces. So pulling a statue in one direction in the future time period might crush one of your enemies against a wall, and therefore kill them. And that is one of the big objectives of the game, is to wipe them out throughout the time period. And then the third module has elephants that you train, and you can give commands to try to direct them to like stomp on somebody. And if you train them in an earlier time period, they stay trained by you in the future time periods. And then what happens is, once you've played through all those modules, and this is where the game gets like mind-blowing, you start doing random combinations of 2 of the 3 modules. You get 2 of them together. So you might have the plants and the elephants, or you might have the statues and the plants, whatever it might be, and they can interact with each other in interesting ways. Like an elephant can knock down a tree, as an example. And when you're doing the combination of effects, you also start to get to open up these envelopes in the box that are like achievements. Like when you're playing video games, you get an achievement. It says, if you kill someone with an elephant, open this envelope, and then you can start getting asymmetrical player powers. They have like bunches of cards in there, and you pick one of the envelopes that you've already opened, and you and your opponent go, okay, I'm going to use this card, you use that card, you use whatever card you want, and you get to use asymmetrical player powers also with the game. So the game slowly reveals itself to you over time, like everything it offers. It's got to be one of the most thorough offerings I have ever seen from an abstract strategy game in my entire life. I've never seen so much content in a single box abstract strategy game, a single game. Because it's supposed to be a single game, but like I say, it feels like a family of games. And that is why That Time You Killed Me is my number 1 on my list of great games to replace classic games. And am I right? Have you not tried this one yet?
Nope.
Are you going to try it at some point?
I don't know. You never asked me to play it.
Well, you can play it with me right after we finish filming this video if you'd like to try it. I don't know if it's one that would be up your alley though. That's why I wasn't sure. I think you just have to try it and see if you like it. I was going to say, because it's one I can't really predict if you would like it or not. I'm not really sure. I knew Alex would like it, which is why I went right into playing it with Alex, and he and I have been loving it. But there you go. That is our list for our top 10 favorite games that replace classic games. Let us know your favorite games that are replacements to classic games in the comments down below. Let us know what you thought of our lists in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this top 10 list and you'd like to see us do more like it, be sure to give it a like. Share it on all forms of social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.